What is that a leopard gecko? Oh god, they hurt. They hurt. It's a leopard gecko! Oh my god, it runs fast. I'm gonna die. Oh no, fuck. Welcome to the swamp, where the bugs are the size of dogs, and the fear of drowning is greater than being eaten alive by a spider. SMALLAND is a game I've been looking forward to for a long time, and now it's finally in early access. Well, does it live up to the years of hype that surrounded this game? Let's find out. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. So I've beaten what's available in the game as of right now, including all 4 world bosses, the current so-called final boss, and as well as some of the mini bosses throughout the map. And it only took me around 20 hours, but given I was taking my time. I laugh at everyone who says this is a ripoff of the game Grounded, because if anything, Grounded copied this game in terms of the theme. SMALLAND was announced way before Grounded ever was, though since then it has hit a lot of snags and went through a lot of developmental hell, as it were, which delayed it many years from its original planned date, allowing Grounded to come out into early access and then full release before this game even got into early release. So because of the history of this game, while I was excited to see the game, I had my doubts on whether this game was going to be good or not. I half expected this to be a buggy mess, no pun intended. To my surprise and delight, this game is alright. Let's see the rest of these sections. This game requires a middle-of-the-road computer, though I can recommend an above-average computer so you can see the full details of this game. The character creation is pretty solid. You can change up a fair amount of the options from your skin color, hairstyle, even your antenna shape and color, which makes it a shame that the armor hides it. The character creator is fairly solid, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 for the many options available to you. Before we get into the start of this game, I want to mention that the music of this game is amazing. From the main menu to the game itself, it sounds almost like John Williams music. Many of the points of various tracks reminded me of Star Wars or Harry Potter. Once you create your character and hop into the world, you were given a cutscene of the King of the Small Folk, telling you to find a cure for his sick queen in the world. You start off in the burrow with some minor tutorials and some NPCs to give you a few basic tips. As you slowly walk out of the burrow, once outside you can find some more tutorials by finding these owl statues, and beside them you will not only see a beautiful world, but a very dangerous one as you are very weak and there are a ton of enemies around. Going into the game blind, you will take a bit of time to get to a point where you can start surviving against even normal enemies. The enemies combined with the dangers of just the world design in general is what will hinder you at the start, but we'll get more into that in the next section. Overall, I'm going to give this section a 4 out of 5. Helpful tutorials with a small radius of a safe area to get you started off, but beyond that, the difficulty level spikes and it really tests you. I only dropped it by 1 point because it can be a bit too unforgiving sometimes, but it's a fine start. Can I swim? I cannot swim. Oh no. You cannot swim, and I lost all my stuff. Oh, now you tell me! Stay away from deep water. Small folk can't swim. Upon death, you'll respawn at your activated bed or spawn location. The exploration of this game is a bit of a hassle, but also rewarding. The center of the map, which is the forest, is where you start off and is the easiest biome, along with all of your basic resources. From there, enemies can get much harder the further you venture out, with the outer layer of the forest being mid-game, and the farthest reaches having various biome diversity and having the hardest enemies as well as the more rarer resources. Each of the various biomes, such as the Greylands, the beach, the swamps, all have unique resources that are required for progression into the endgame, so traveling between them is crucial. And that leads to some of the negatives, which is the verticality and the fact that there is too much water in this game. The map itself is not large by any means, but you can cross it from corner to corner in a matter of minutes. The issue comes down to the fact that there is a lot of verticality, tons of cliffs, tree roots, and other forms of obstacles to go around, under, and over, which delays your travel if you have no mounts to overcome them for you. Mounts help a lot in crossing the terrain in many ways. Geckos can climb any surface but are slower. Grasshoppers can leap super far and take no falling damage at all, even if you jump off the tallest of trees. And later you can even unlock flying mounts like the damselfly. The only downside is, let's say the grasshopper mount is just like you and they cannot swim. With how unpredictable they can leap, you can overshot easily from where you want to be and miss it and land into the river and drown, along with your mount, which has happened to me many times to my frustration. You can only have one pet at a time, and if they die for good, so you're gonna have to go get another one. But back to the drowning point. There are many rivers in this map that don't have easy crossing points or are merged into the verticality of the map, so crossing them becomes a nightmare unless you know your grasshopper can easily leap over it. If you don't have one, then good luck finding a spot to cross, if you can even cross one. There's a river that only has one log that you can use as a bridge, but it's way too tall to cross it normally unless you build a scaffolding. Beyond that, I'm a bit disappointed there are little to no caves or dungeons. There are a few caves that I found, but they're not really caves. They're very small, only consisting of one hall or one room with one or two enemies inside. While exploring at night, it can be very difficult to see. Torches can help, but it's generally better to just sleep through the night. I have noticed some of the enemies becoming different at night, but I didn't notice any difference in items that they drop or their temperament. The world itself has seasons: summer, fall, winter, and spring. Since there isn't a way to track the days pass, I don't know how many days are each season, but if I had to guess, I guess around 5 or so days. As such, it's the best to have some warming food and clothing before winter arrives, or you will be a very cold small folk. And the last thing for this section is the weather system. On occasion, you will have the occasional rainstorm that comes through, which isn't too big of a deal. It adds to the atmosphere. However, while you are out adventuring, there is a rare chance for a storm to happen. Unlike the normal rain, this one gives you a warning that a storm is coming, and then you have a couple of minutes to quickly find shelter while all of the music suddenly becomes suspenseful and urgent. A storm approaches, seek shelter? Is the storm over? Oh. Storm has broken, remain sheltered. Oh my god, what the fuck? Can I look out the window? Wait, how do I go first person? There we go. You don't really see anything, it like despawns the rain, but... Okay, there's the lightning. Holy shit. What the fuck? So what happens if I go outside? Oh my god. Oh, my character's getting cold. Freezing? Oh, now I'm taking damage. Hopefully you can find a place to hide, because once the non-visible timer is up, you get a warning that the storm has broken and all hell will break loose as the music ramps up. The camera waves side to side and the wind and thunder cracks upon the screen for a solid 30 seconds or so. If you are caught outside during a storm, you will start to take damage as you become freezing, and it gets very dangerous. Eventually the storm will settle down and everything will be safe again. It's very similar to the sandstorm in Conan Exiles, which I really like. It keeps me on my toes and always to expect danger. I only hope that they improve the visual of the rain, as it's hardly visible even at max settings. Overall with this section, I'm gonna rate it a 3.5 out of 5. There are some beautiful areas, I love the store mechanics, and the mounts are fun, but I did have issues with traversing the map itself, as well as there's not as many points of interest that I would hope for. Oh, I hear something. I hear something. I hear something. I don't like that sound. I don't like that sound! Nope, nope. I don't want to... Oh my god, it's behind me. I don't want to turn around. Unlike the last few reviews that I did, there was at least a bit of survival in this game. While not super extensive like Green Hell, you only really have a food bar, but the food in this game is a bit more valuable. When you first start off, you're only given a few smaller food items that barely do anything, until you find a food source. It will bother you for a while. As you start cooking, the foods you get will give you more food points. Though you still need to find the sourced items, which either require multiple of an easier item like mushrooms, or meat from an enemy, which is more rare to drop. So there is a bit of a balance there. I've already talked about the weather system and surviving in the open world during the last part, and I feel that also applies here. You eventually unlock potions that will be beneficial for fighting larger monsters and bosses later on. I talked about seasons earlier, but the winter does add to the survival aspects as the world will become cold and you will need to make filling meals in order to keep warm. The only issues I have is that almost every single enemy has a very high aggro range and will gang up on you very easy. So you get all your stuff back and you repair at no cost. I love that. Hello? Oh god! I don't even see them! Fuck off! Even if you outlevel the enemy, it's still very annoying to deal with the ants and the beetles always chasing you when you just want to go past them from A to B. And it only gets worse toward the harder zones when they hit a lot harder. I'm gonna rate this section a 4 out of 5. It's not fully immersive system, and sometimes it can be annoying, but the few systems that are there do affect you as a player and require you to survive rather than just ignore it like some other games I've played. What the fuck? Advanced rotate? What is this? The building is basic and serviceable. There are 3 tiered levels for building your home, and there is no official base defense system. Oh god! An ant is attacking my house. Hey! No. Bad. Fuck off. But enemies can and will attack your base if you build next to a spawning point, so finding a safe area is a must. Players can also damage your structures, as will the weather. To protect your home from the weather, everything must be under a roof, including forges, which I learned the hard way when I came home and it was gone. The windmill is the only item that can survive outside. There are not a lot of decor pieces, but I feel that will change in the future. And the last thing I wish to talk about for the building is that there are great trees. So on a single player server, these are very easy to grab for yourself. On a public server, it's free for all, and pray you get one. Once claimed, you will own the whole tree and be able to build on the top of it. If you ever want to change what tree you wish to live in, you can easily just tell the tree guardian to change trees and everything will be switched over seamlessly, or as they put it, magically. The crafting is not bad at all. While you can handcraft basic items, your workbench will be your bread and butter for building most items, as well as repairing items. There are a few other workbenches too, but you will not need a super large house to hold them all. From cooking, filling food, to making potions, armor, weapons, crafting is a necessity of this game, and not too grindy. The majority of items, at the most, need 10, but usually from 1 to 5 of each of the required items to make. The hardest part is just going out and gathering the items. There is no farming system as of right now in this game, but I feel that there should be. So you can grow your own fruit, your seeds, even some saplings for wood, fiber, and resin. Though, overall, I feel this section is going to get a 4 out of 5. It's good and serviceable, still missing some elements, but I feel like they will be added later on. It's a weapon. Oh ho ho ho! Oh, yes! Oh, yes! Okay, new favorite weapon. The PvE is a bit wonky and certainly takes getting used to. All I really have to say is that blocking attacks is your best friend, but blocking can sometimes take up to half a second to switch from your current animation while fighting to a defensive stance, so you need to time your blocking and attacking perfectly, especially for boss battles who have abilities that can kill you easily if not blocked. There are strengths and resistances to consider, which your bug senses can help you determine it. The smaller enemies, I've stated before, can be very annoying when they all aggro you from half a mile away, and the tuning of the attacks for grouped enemies like bees and ants are terrible for low levels, and even same level. Speaking of, when I say levels, there are no levels you can gain. I mean that in terms of progression, which is solely gear-based. You can't craft your own armor, but you get it from other NPCs you find throughout the world, some of which are locked until you defeat certain boss battles. There are around 4 main world bosses, a few mini-bosses, and one larger boss who is the current game's end boss, but given that this game is unfinished, he is more like a mid-game boss. Think of the Broodmother from Grounded, who was in early access the end boss until she became a side boss later on. As of right now, there are no dungeons, but I feel like that will change in the future, as I found several openings to what seems like it could be a cave system or somewhere to explore, but you can't enter them at all. I don't have much more to say on this topic, so I think I'm gonna go what little there is, which is fine, and I'm gonna just rate it a 3.5 out of 5. It's not overall the best PvE I've had, but it's not terrible either. Like I said, timing your blocking and attacking will save your life, and don't forget your bandages and potions. Unfortunately, I can't rate the PvP as I wasn't able to get on a PvP server. There are very few servers that were open, and the few that I saw were PvE without friendly fire. PvP does exist, but I'm unable to rate how well it works as of right now, as there are no dedicated PvP servers, so unless you find a group of friends to PvP with you, this is not the game for PvP. But I'm not gonna rate it since I didn't get to try it out. As of right now, there is no story to discover as you explore. There are some drips of information occasionally, but nothing to form a full story, especially in this early development. This is all bound to change in the future, but for now, this section will not be rated. So the story is that the queen of the small folk is ill, and the king wants you to find the cure. He sends you to the overworld to seek it. The elder, who lives just outside, has the cure, but the key to the chest was stolen, so you must find it. It is a basic story to give you motivation, but it has nothing amazing to look forward to. Now, with that being said, this game is of course not finished, and after completing the current final boss, only reveals that there is more to come. So I'm not gonna rate this section either. Just like the last section, I don't feel I should rate this section for the fact that the endgame is not implemented yet. As I stated in the story section, there is still more to the story, areas to unlock, and loads more that are just not in yet. So while I won't rate this section, I will say that after you beat the so-called early access end boss, you don't really have much left to progress towards. Though, of course, if you like building, I guess it's okay, as well as some role-playing too. As of right now, there are a few thousand active players in-game. However, finding a server to play on is almost impossible, as almost all of the servers are locked with passwords, and only 1 or 2 of the servers are open and had a few players on them. So this is gonna be a game you either play alone or with friends. As for the updates, this game does have a history of being in developmental hell, but it seems like things have straightened out, and I feel confident in the development of this game. However, it has remained to be seen as we haven't had our first content update just yet, just a hotfix. So I'm gonna give this section a 3 out of 5. The score was lowered by the fact that there are no open servers, and I feel like there should be at least 2 open servers for people to play on, a PvE and a PvP server, but right now there are none. I would say the biggest thing to work on right now is to fix some of the balancing issues. One of the first things you'll notice starting the game is that ants aggro you from a mile distance away, and when there are multiple of them, they can gang up on you fairly quick and are dangerous for those starting off. Of course, later they can be one-shot, but I feel their damage needs to be tweaked very slightly. There is also the price of some armor requiring a ton of chitin, while armors that are higher grade, while the materials are harder to get, you don't need nearly as many as you do for the bee armor, for example, which requires tons of chitin. So I feel those numbers need to also be tweaked. Besides that, I had surprisingly very few bugs and no lag at all. I ran smooth for most of the game. The bugs were mildly annoying, but not terrible to make me angry. I would say sometimes your follower can get stuck on random things, but I didn't spend too much time helping them out. When you log out and log back in, they will spawn right on top of you, which is a bit annoying, but at least you can walk them out of the front door of your base easy. Overall, it was a decent experience, and considering this is early access, I'm gonna give this a 4.5 out of 5. There are minor bugs that I mentioned, so I did drop it a bit. It's not a perfect score, but overall very good. Can I jump on this? I can. Fuck off. Where'd the dragonfly? Oh, look at the dragonfly! Are you aggressive? Are you gonna kill me? No, it doesn't look like it. Oh, that's so cool. My overall score for this game is going to be a 3.9 out of 5. You know what? That's close enough. Let's just round it up to a 4 out of 5. I said this before, but I half expected this game to be a buggy mess from the years of delays, and I was genuinely surprised that this game ran as well as it did. I still think there needs to be some tinkering with the balancing and tuning of various numbers. I would also like it if you could tame more than one bug at a time, though, you know, only have one follow you, but I'm sure it will all be fixed and addressed in a future update. I do plan to play this game again when it comes out into the full launch, and if you wish to see my final review of this game when it releases, be sure to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this review, like the video, and I'll see you next time. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out.